When I first started the Tremontirum, I was basically just doing maintenance. I was actually working outside in the downtown crossing. I was working on a push cart. They don't have many push carts left, but I was working on a silver cart um, for this man named Roger. I believe he's actually still there. Um, but while I was there, people would come down from the store that was the Tremontirum that was then on Winter Street in downtown Crossing. And they would buy like scarves or jewelry or whatnot off my thing, and off my cart, and I was curious as to what they were about, who they were. I always saw the same people. They always had a certain aura about them, and apparently they were using the scarves for table coverings and tablecloths, which was kind of cool. So I made my way up there eventually, just to kind of see what it was like and what was going on up there. And it was pretty cool. There was so many people there. It was rather eclectic. There were people that were Christians, there were people that studied, that were Jewish, and there were people that were Santorian. There were people that were pagans in general. There were people that were Wiccans. I think we even had an actual Romany woman that was working there with us once. Um, it was just a very eclectic bunch. And so over time, I started kind of getting into the tarot. I mean, I had always been into philosophy and psychology and sociology. So it was just things that interested me, anyways. That I found that you had to kind of know in order to learn the tarot. Um, and after a while, I kind of studied tarot in light of Carl Gustav Jung's way of doing things in philosophy. I was really interested in that, Myers-Briggs. Um, and because there was so many correlations, because actually Jung actually did a whole study on the tarot as symbols of archetypes that he was working with, that I really got into it because I'm a big fan of science. I really am, and which makes it a hard mix. But well, you can't deny the visions and intuition and the things that you pick up off of people, anyways. Um, so yeah, I kind of followed the tarot, and I had previously been big into. I was actually brought up Christian. I was brought up. I was born Catholic, then I was adopted, and when I was adopted, we were both Protestant Church of Christ Congregationalists, and we eventually went into Baptist church, and so I got a lot of different views on Christianity, and so it's still part of my core, and to me in America and people that I read, it is pretty much their core too, Judeo-Christian religion. So I use that when I'm trying to communicate um, with people that are Christian or Jewish. Wicca was really interesting because I learned how to kind of divide things up into their elements, and you learned about the masculine and the feminine and the balancing of those. You you learn that there's really not heaven or hell. It's more like it either helps nature or it's a detriment to nature. So you think of things more as energy, positive, negative, without putting a judgment value on it. You know, and you and I kind of went on to that. You learn to follow the cycles of the seasons. I learned some astrology, uh, astronomy. I mean, I got into that too because one's more like a philosophical thing that deals with what goes on internally inside someone as far as the archetypes that kind of rule people, and how situations like places where people are born are very important to their psychology and how they're going to act in a situation. And there's also, I'm not going to get into all of it, but anyways, there's that, and I also, like I said, I'm a fan of hard science, so I really like um, learning about what makes the world tick in terms that everybody can agree on. Um, I believe that psychics like me that are more empathic and more using intuition and stuff is kind of coming to the fore because people can understand um, a lot of things that used to be fiction are kind of like now coming into the fore. Like there's body language and there's micro expressions, there's pheromones. There's so many things that go into reading someone for me. I mean, because I don't just read my intuitions. I don't just read what I empathically feel. I communicate my visions, but I also try to focus it through a lens of what's realistic in life and what's actual science, what's been proven, which makes it really difficult for me to like sometimes like go purely psychic on someone. But that's just the way I operate, and I've learned over time. It's been like 20, 25 years to just kind of go with what comes through, and that's a little insight into the process behind I do it. But anyways, I came into the tea room way back when I was like 22, 23, um, and I got really interested in the paganism, the Kabbalah, the nature religions, and from the nature religions, I moved on to Kabbalah. Um, I learned a lot from through talking through theosophical, philosophical discussions with Peter Blocker. I learned a lot of Kabbalah, the Hebrew Kabbalah through Kay Dunn. That was kind of her background, um, which is nice because Kabbalah you can actually use it without having to worry about one in particular religion. It's pretty straightforward, and someday maybe I'll make a video on that. Um, and I'm saying like a million times. Anyways, what to expect from a reading for me is very simple. I will basically say, what's your focus? Where do you want to head with this? And then I will pull some cards on it and use the cards as a sounding board to kind of shape my feelings that I get from you. People ask how it can be done over the phone. Most of it's because of the vibrations I hear in your voice and your pitch and tonality. And yes, some of it may be considered cheating, but that's basically how I do it. From there, I use the cards, and it's my sounding board. And my sounding board will basically tell me what direction to start looking, and and where to kind of focus my mind's eye, so I can um, create a channel into the situation. And when I create a channel into the situation, then I'm there. And once I'm there, information just starts flooding in, and it might not make sense at the time. A lot of times it will. It may seem counterintuitive, but this is just the information I'm getting through the channel, whether it be through a spirit or through uh, you and your connection with other people. I might use you as a pivot point to see, because sometimes people, every situation you go through, um, you remember. It's stuck there somewhere. The more emotional it is, the more of an imprint it gives you, then yeah, that stays as a sticky memory. But a lot of it kind of falls into the unconscious. And when it falls into the unconscious, a lot of times you don't realize that you're acting in ways that are detrimental to you based on not dealing with a situation that was in your periphery or that you didn't want to pay attention to when you had to. Um, that's just how I see it. Anyways, some of the stuff might work. A lot of it doesn't seem like it will. I'll get back to you.